That was my fangirl scream, because we've got some more details about the Batman 2022 that I need to sink my teeth into. How's it going, my fellow Bat family? Welcome to another update video for the Batman 2022. Now, today isn't an installment in the discussion series that we usually have going on around once a week, every 2 weeks, because today, I'm sorry, I'm fumbling my words, because just reading through some of the descriptions coming out of CinemaCon, I'm salivating. Now, today's information is both new, both some things we've heard before, but more intrigue, if that makes sense. Because at CinemaCon, you may have heard Warner Brothers showed some footage of The Matrix, and then they also had Matt Reeves, Robert Pattinson comment about the Batman. They showed some new footage there, and the articles from various different outlets were describing those scenes. But the funny thing is, there's a slight bit of conflicting reports about some of the descriptions coming from each said press person representing each said press outlet. So today, I'm going to read through each one of them and just really get into the context of it all, because it lines up with what a lot of I've been saying in the first place, but also it just kind of, let me put it this way, it follows suit with what Matt Reeves was spitting at DC Fandom last year. So if you want more hype for the Batman, this video is for you. So let's start with, I believe Brandon Davis from comicbook.com, a frontrunner to be the most hotly anticipated film of 2022. The Batman brought an extended behind-the-scenes look to CinemaCon, which played only for the crowd in attendance. In the footage, director Matt Reeves opened up about his intimate approach to the DC Comics icon as dark, grungy, and beautiful footage took the screen. So the featurette opened up, and this is, I need to pull it from my shelves, but very year one, and they actually get into quite a bit of year one inspiration, and I'll get more into that in a minute. I can barely contain myself. So the featurette, guys, opened with Bruce Wayne walking to the tune of ominous piano music from Michael Giacchino. For some reason, Batman has always stood as one of the major characters of the 20th century. The film star Robert Pattinson explains. We see him in the cowl, removing it, and the tones of the film are heavily black and grey, remaining dark and appearing hopeless. Reeves promises this is radically different from other Batman movies. How? We haven't seen anything grounding it the way year one does, Reeves explains, which, yeah, as I said, I'll get into the year one, Frank Miller year one stuff in a minute. Now, meanwhile, footage shows Batman ruthlessly beating up goons in what could have been a dark prison set, lit only by the alarming color of a red light. Explosions, police officers, and dark chaos fill out the footage. He's really working out this rage, Pattinson said. All of the fights seem very personal. He uses various weapons, pipes included, to beat down his enemies. We quickly get our first look at Andy Serkis as Alfred. I need it. Oh, come on. I need Andy Serkis as Alfred in some way shown to me right now. A classy looking gentleman wearing a vest over his buttoned down shirt, possibly with a drink in one hand for the brief shot. Other highlights include the Batmobile driving with flames coming from its exhaust, seeing it rip through a city street in exciting fashion. We can't wait for you to see the Batman in theaters next year, Reeves concludes. This leads to a very slightly updated version of the original trailer from 2020's DC Fandom event, taking the screen with a bit more action involving Catwoman, a red 2022 slate at the end, and a voiceover from the Riddler, "You're a part of this too." Bruce responds over the dark screen with a question, "How am I a part of this?" You'll see, it was awesome. So yeah, it does look like the back end trailer that they showed was the DC Fandom trailer indeed. However, this is what I mean by a bit of conflicting reports. You have various other reporters who were there writing for their outlets, which, you know, as I said, I might get into in a second, just saying that it was the DC Fandom trailer. But Brandon Davis from comicbook.com here says it was slightly updated with a bit more Catwoman action. So maybe Brandon Davis is right there in how it is basically the identical DC Fandom trailer, except with a bit of new footage where these other reporters maybe who aren't as into this as we are just thought through the majority of it being the same footage from DC Fandom, they probably just thought maybe it was just the identical trailer. But if we're going off what Brandon Davis from comicbook.com has to say, it did apparently have a little bit more. Now, trust me, I really want to get into what they said about the opening scene, about Pattinson's Bruce walking down the street, Gotham in chaos with the Year One vibes. But what I'm going to do, just only because the language used from the different coverage from different websites seemed to just kind of give you a better vibe for what they were seeing in the room. So I wouldn't normally do this, but I do feel like what they're describing here compared to the comicbook.com one, albeit very similar, I just feel like I need to read it again for you guys, but in a different depiction from these other reporters, because trust me, it just gives you that taste a little bit better in your mouth. So I'll try and read it out a bit faster, but this one is from Lauren Huff, I believe, from Entertainment Weekly. So the Caped Crusader is back once again, but not like you've seen him before. New footage of Matt Reeves' The Batman debuted at CinemaCon on Tuesday. In it, the film's gloomy aesthetic is in full force as we see bits and pieces of a rainy Gotham thrown into chaos. Robert Pattinson's Bruce Wayne broods along the city streets. We get quick glimpses of Andy Serkis's Alfred, Batman beating up foes, explosions, police officers, and more chaos. The clips were cut with behind-the-scenes glimpses and footage of Reeves and his cast talking about the film, which the director revealed was partially inspired by Frank Miller's Batman Year One. Now, I do want to say, it does have multiple inspirations. Just because this is laid out like this, don't think that Year One is the main inspiration. Ego is just as, if not bigger of an inspiration, so on and so forth. But as I said, I'll dissect that afterwards. But anyway, continuing along, revealed was partially inspired by Frank Miller's Batman Year One. I felt that we've seen lots of origin stories. It seems things go further and further into fantasy. And I thought, well, one place we haven't been is grounding it in the way that Year One does. To come right in to a young Batman, not being an origin tale, but referring to his origins and shaking him to his core. You can have it be very practical, but I also thought that it could be the most emotional Batman movie ever made. The reason why I took my time with that last one, because as I said it, I got the shoulder chills, and this is, I can't. I've got chills still right now. And even though this is the latest of many iterations of The Dark Knight, Pattinson said the project felt different and special to him. For some reason, Batman has always stood out as one of the major characters of the 20th century, and so many people connect with it on such a deep level for so many different reasons, he explained in the clip. From the first conversation I had with Matt about it, I just knew that there was something radically different here. And obviously, it's just like, so my take on that is, it's technically not radically different. It's radically different from what's been shown throughout live action adaptations and whatnot, even though they do lean into it. But what's radically different, I call radically accurate to Batman. It's just this film, even though other films, to give them credit where credit's due, have delved into a bit of the psychology, the grounded aspects, is what Year One gets into, is what Batman Ego gets into. This film, it's ripping off the shit, man. It's going in there. But that will provide us a radically different, but I call radically accurate Batman to what we've seen before on screen. Now, also in the featurette, Jeffrey Wright, who plays James Gordon in the film, teases that Gotham is a character in a way that we haven't seen before. Now, I'm not blowing smoke up my own arse here, but how many times have I said in my Batman videos as of the last several months that Gotham is most certainly a character in of itself, and it's just great to hear Jeffrey Wright reiterate that and emphasize that, if you will, because it most certainly is. And then lastly, guys, Screen Rant also did a little write-up of it. Now, most of it is the same. You know, the movie footage depicts a Batman beating up Gotham City goons awash in red light, as well as other action with explosions, which is most likely Riddler explosions, I'm guessing, police officers in chaos. There's also more footage of Batman and Catwoman's fight that was teased in the teaser trailer, so I'm guessing that's a slightly expanded scene upon Bruce Wayne, or should I say Batman versus Catwoman in the original DC Fandom trailer. And then it goes on to say what we've already kind of articulated here. Pattinson says he's really working out this rage. All the fights seem very personal, and Batman is shown using a variety of weapons. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about this. So, even though this isn't the most brand new news, I love what I'm hearing here. But let's start at the beginning. I'm going to go back to Brandon Davis's from comicbook.com. The featurette opened with Bruce Wayne walking to the tune of an ominous piano music from Michael Giacchino. Now, so what is going on there? With the references to Year One, I can imagine straight out the comic book or the movie when Bruce is just walking down Gotham. You're probably seeing it on screen right now. Now, I'm guessing that Bruce is in his drifter mode when he's doing this. I don't know if the movie's necessarily going to pick up with this, but it was a good way to probably show it in, you know, this CinemaCon presentation, because it will set the tone of Gotham, right? The grounded vibe that they wanted to get across to the audience that attended. What better than showing Robert Pattinson's Bruce Wayne? So Bruce Wayne, suited, well, he's not suited up, he might just be in the drifter mode, but it's like observing the state, the living, breathing character that is Gotham, the cesspool of stuff that could be going on down that street. You only have to imagine. Fights outbreaking, trash everywhere, this, that, and the other, and Bruce is just looking at it like, what has become of my city? Or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, it's always been pretty shit, to be honest, Bruce. But you know what I mean? He's probably just soaking it in. Now, when Reeves promises that this is radically different from other Batman movies, we haven't seen anything grounding it the way Year One does. Now, it's kind of what I've already spoken about in little ways. The movies have gone into it. Of course they have. Like, it'd be silly to say that other movies haven't gone in a grounding way that, like, Frank Miller's Batman Year One does. The difference between that statement and these movies that have included little trinklets of that is that it wasn't consistently hammered down there. This is being frickin' forged with only one thing in mind, and that is that tone. Whereas other movies obviously went this, that, and the other. Now, obviously, Year One isn't the only inspiration. We have Batman Ego and The Long Halloween. In fact, DC are literally releasing in March a comic book sleeve of literally these three right here. It will look like this, but I don't have the sleeve, so I want to get it. It will look like this sideways, but on the side of it, it will have like that beautiful cardboard of Jim Lee's The Batman art, and oh my god, I can't wait for that. But these are the three babies you're looking for. Right here. Is one back to front? I don't know. So this is the main one they were talking about, obviously, with regards to this presentation. And here is the very scene that I was on about. I mean, you've probably already seen it on screen, and you probably... Oh, okay, I've just dropped one on the floor, but this is going crazy. Sorry, I'm just fanboying out right now, but you can see Brucey Baby walking down the street. That is probably exactly what they freaking meant. This will just be a huge one, obviously, in terms of the rage, the psychology, the duality of Brucey Baby. I'm sorry, I can't help it. And you've heard my words all about that before. And then lastly, The Long Halloween, of course, is finding that mysterious killer. But it's not going to be Holiday. It's going to be the Riddler. So you can see why they put three of those in a box set, which I'm probably just going to buy anyway. And maybe I could give away the graphic novels to you guys. I just want the sleeve. When they say we see him in the cowl removing it, this could honestly be the very ending scene that they're just, you know, annotating over the words being spoken in this kind of mini mashup sizzle reel documentary by the sounds of what they're... It's not obviously a documentary, but, you know, they're interviewing, like, these actors and the director himself on top of probably showing clips from the movie. That's the way my brain's absorbing this information right now. So back to my main point, we see him in the cowl removing it. I'm wondering if this could honestly be the last scene where they're just doing that again, or did they get to see another scene where literally Pattinson just removes the cowl? I know that's just something we've already seen, but I would pay literal lots of money to just see that right now in just another scene where he just takes it off and he's just like, well, what a night, boys. That was quite a rough one. When they say that he's really working out his rage. Now, obviously, it's been a minute since Bruce's parents died, but don't forget that... I don't need to explain this to you. Batman is very angry, but when he's in his early years, and think about it, he's gone through the commitment of going out there in Gotham to put a suit on and stop crime, and really try and stop the bigger crimes to the smaller crimes. To the bigger being the mob, families like Falcone and whatnot, but then even just goon fights that you see even in the trailer. So imagine someone who's gone that level of commitment to it. He's going to be angry when he sees a crime going down. And even in the trailer, you see those goons. And the fact that he says he's really working on his rage, all the fights seem very personal. This is fresh, unfiltered Batman. One who hasn't had all the experience in the world. He's always angry, even 10 years down for sure. But, like, by then there's a bit of wear and tear and veteran experience that he can kind of like see a bit more clearly. But in this mode, it's kind of like coming out of a situation where you've just had the blind lifted off you. You're in like a fight or flight mode almost, and that is what Bruce gets into. It's very personal, very angry. That's why we see him smack that goon 6 more, 7, 8 more times than he needed to. So that will become refined throughout Pattinson's Bruce's career, obviously, as Batman. But the fact that we're going to see that in its pure form, which is very accurate, is exactly what is meant to happen. That you don't always see in other movies. Like, you do, but you don't. But this is what I'm trying to really get across in this video with what they tried to get across. There is a period where you could do that for a little bit in other movies that we've seen before. But if you wanted to really do it, which would be true to the comics and the character, the whole first movie would really, in fact, be highlighting that every step of the way. And the fact that I hear he uses various weapons, pipes included, to beat down enemies. So I think it's not like Batman's carrying around a pipe, but you can imagine maybe one of those thugs, or it may be not even seen in the trailer that we've seen from DC Fandom last year. If a thug is using a pipe, then I can imagine Batman disarms him and then, you know, proper knocks him out with his own effing pipe, let alone other weapons. So I'm sure maybe he does have his own weapons. Maybe he even uses one of the grapple hook ammunition things that is on his arm, pulls one of them off. He could even stab it into the thighs of a criminal, because that won't kill them. But you see what I mean? I'm expecting that level of brutality from Pattinson's Bruce that is angry, not life-threatening, but angry to the point of where he's not shying away from beating you bloody with a pipe, possibly even, you know, stabbing you with your own weapon, but not in a life-threatening way, just a disabling way. As for the description of Andy Serkis's Alfred, a classy-looking gentleman wearing a vest over his buttoned-down shirt. You could practically imagine Andy Serkis with like a buttoned-up shirt, but like probably he's wearing like a waistcoat vest. Which is very Pennyworth in of itself. He's got more whitish hair from what they've been describing, which is interesting. I thought it'd maybe be a bit more dirty, dark brown to graying because he's in his 50s. But then again, you know, I've always said this will be more of a younger, more rough and gruff Alfred. And that's the case in Batman Year One. Earth One. But in the Earth One, he still has white hair. So either way, it's Alfred. It sounds like Alfred, but I'm dying to see it. So I think that is mainly the info I wanted to cover. It's just hearing that Bruce is walking down the street in a certain shot to this piano music, and you can imagine that being like dun, 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 something like that. I'm sure it won't be the main theme of the Batman, but like, I can imagine they're twinkling in little notes like that as he's walking down the street, and he's just breathing in the state of the city that only probably reinvigorates his absolute compulsion to go out there as the Batman. So that has got me salivating as it is. Then just hearing Reeves talk about not necessarily being an origin tale, but referring to his origins and shaking him to his core. And that is important for this type of first Batman movie, because when you're doing that, you need to kind of crack Bruce so he can then build himself back up there in the image of a Batman that he wants to be. The ironic thing about that is I think he already feels like he's done that, because he's come to Gotham, and as Reeves said in this criminological experiment that I go on and on about, he's not having the results he expected. So I think he's been quite impulsive. He's gone in there with a plan, but it's half-cocked almost, I think, through his rage-filled actions that are, you know, going to be displayed throughout the movie. But as I just said, dialing it back, backpedaling a little bit, by the end of shaking him to his core, through the events of going up against the intellectual villain known as the Riddler, he can rebuild himself after being more or less fractured. But that is a part of, yeah, like, even, as I said, Batman Ego. You can see the vibes of this. Like, he will come to reconcile with who and what he is, the duality, but it takes an effing movie to do that, and that is what we're gonna see. I almost feel like, this sounds so nerdy, but I feel like tearing up with excitement for this, just being in this. Like, even this information is what turns light bulbs on in my head, and ones that were already in power save mode. They're on standby as it is, you know, so I can't wait, guys. Just hearing it being described as the most, or probably, hopefully, the most emotional Batman movie as well. You know, Pattinson is really going to bring out those acting chops. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we get scenes where he is truly shaken to his core, as literally described in this article and like the CinemaCon presentation. But you know, this also brings up scenes between Alfred and him. You could get some really tense scenes there, kind of like the father disciplining the son, but the son kind of trying to bark back, potentially. If any of you have read it, think Batman Earth 1 kind of arguments, maybe. But that just about wraps this video up, guys. So I hope this gave you a nice little taster, like little appetizer for what is to come in the coming month or so, to be honest. Well, actually a bit more than that, because you know, DC Fandom is in October after all, and that is when I believe there will probably be repeating what they've shown at CinemaCon, but at DC Fandom, but maybe with a bit more depth. I think what they showed at CinemaCon could also maybe even be some of what we saw months back now. I don't know if you guys remember when we saw Zoe Kravitz's Selina Kyle going to this cemetery, and you saw Reeves speaking on screen, you saw Zoe Kravitz speaking on screen. I think they did a lot of this stuff a while back, and that was what was being shown here, maybe, and so on and so forth. DC Fandom to the public and to the fans, maybe with a bit more of a pack of a punch as well, and a few nice surprises potentially, and some more t-shirts, because this was a DC Fandom t-shirt. I'm expecting more DC Fandom merch just like this. But ladies and gentlemen, let me know what most out of this information really got you most excited. Even just hearing like the red light is present when he's fighting, that could be done in a kind of you know, theme kind of sense to show the anger like what we have seen in the trailer. But then there could actually even be like an alarm or something that is red and blinking, and that's what's going off as Bruce Wayne is fighting, or should I say Batman is fighting those thugs. But yet again, the red being the very thematic kind of color and representation to the rage, yeah, that is present in this movie. But yeah, I'm rambling again, so guys, I need to hear everything. Like this video if you did enjoy it. Make sure that you do subscribe, because it really does help me out, liking the video, subscribing. A lot of you aren't subscribed, even though you keep coming back to the channel. And also, check out my top pinned comment, because in that top pinned comment, that is mine, in the comment section, there is links to my Twitter, my Discord server. But thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you, lovely Bat family, in the next video. Goodbye.